My name is Sarah. My twin sister is Emma, and we grew up in a decaying coastal town in New England. When people saw us together, they'd smile and say, "You're copies of each other." But the truth was far more complicated than that. We were twins who looked alike, yet we were completely different people. Emma was always in the light. Her laugh was loud, her footsteps quick. I, on the other hand, was quiet. I didn't enjoy crowds. I'd spend hours in my room reading, watching the world through my window. My father used to say that Emma got her vibrancy from our mother, while I inherited his silence. But our mother rarely spoke about these differences. It seemed like she feared not the gap between us, but the connection that bound us together. There was always something strange between us, even as children. They call it the twin bond. I don't know if that's what it was, but sometimes when Emma cried, I'd feel an ache deep inside me. We'd wake at the same moment. We'd get sick on the same day. Sometimes we'd have the same dreams. But as we grew older, that similarity, instead of bringing us closer, pushed us further apart. While I craved silence, Emma craved attention. When we entered high school, she became the social, popular girl. And I was just a shadow in the back row, scribbling in my notebook. Yet for all our differences, we didn't hate each other enough to cause real harm. Not back then. I remember we were 14. It was a summer evening, and we went for a walk in the woods outside of town. The sun was setting. The birds had gone silent. Emma suddenly stopped and turned to me. "Sarah," she said, "have you ever thought about it? What if only one of us is really here?" I felt a chill run through me. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Maybe one of us is just the other's dream. Or maybe one of us exists inside the other." I tried to laugh it off, but my throat tightened. I never forgot those words. After that day, something unspoken grew cold between us. Years passed. We went to different universities, me to Boston, her to Providence. She continued her vibrant social life. I withdrew further into myself, but something strange happened. Whenever I looked in a mirror, I didn't see myself. I saw her eyes staring back at me. In the mirrors, I began to feel like my reflection didn't belong to me, but to Emma. Our mother became ill during those years, cancer. In those final days we spent in the hospital, Emma never came to see her. She only called once, saying she couldn't bear to watch. When our mother died, I was alone. Emma didn't even come to the funeral. Something broke in me that day. I couldn't forgive her. But life has a strange way of bringing people back together. Years later, when our father passed away, I had to return to our childhood home, and Emma was already there. When we met at the threshold of that house, my breath caught. The girl in front of me had my exact face, but in those eyes there was something different, something that didn't belong to the sister I knew. When I stepped inside after our father's funeral, the air was thick and heavy dust, dampness, and the smell of old memories. Our childhood home was almost unchanged. The wooden dining table in the living room, faded family photos on the wall, and in the corner, that large cracked mirror. Emma greeted me beside it, smiling. But there was no warmth in that smile. "Sarah," she said quietly, "you didn't see Dad, did you?" I shook my head. "You didn't come to the funeral either," I said. She shrugged. "I stayed too long. I couldn't make it." That's when I felt that something had shifted. The warmth between us had completely vanished. We walked through the house together, and every room held echoes of our past. But what disturbed me most were the mirrors. There were mirrors everywhere, large, small, round, rectangular. Our mother used to say, too many mirrors in a house, and the spirits can't find their way. Father would laugh at her superstitions. But that night, the silence coming from those mirrors wasn't just silence. It felt like a living, breathing thing. I spent my first night in my old room. My walls still had sketches from my youth. On the shelves sat yellowed notebooks. As the window curtain swayed in the breeze, I looked at my reflection in the mirror. I didn't recognize myself. I looked exhausted, pale, like someone else entirely. But something was wrong. My reflection seemed to move just slightly too late. I raised my hand. My reflection raised it a moment later. I didn't move. It was still watching me. My skin prickled. I closed my eyes and breathed. I'm just tired, I told myself. I'm just tired. That's all. Around 3 in the morning, I woke to a strange sound. Something was being dragged downstairs. The wooden floor creaked. It sounded like someone was slowly walking toward the living room. I grabbed my phone. 3:12 a.m. Everything was pitch black. I opened my door and looked down the staircase. There was no one there, but in front of that large mirror there was a shadow. It stood perfectly in the center. When I turned on the light, it vanished. The next morning, I found Emma in the kitchen. She looked calm, making coffee. "Did you hear anything last night?" I asked. Without looking up, she said, "No." She didn't look at my face. "Maybe it was the wind," she said. But there was something in her tone that didn't ring true. When I took my coffee to the living room, something caught my eye. On the bottom of the mirror was a faint mark, as if written in condensation. I leaned closer to look. 3 words were written there. "I am still here." The morning I saw those words in the mirror, something inside me shattered. From that day forward, the air in the house changed. Every footstep echoed. It felt like invisible eyes were watching me from every corner. Emma, though, seemed unbothered. She'd leave early in the mornings and come back late at night. Sometimes when she came home from outside, I'd see dirt smudged on her clothes. When I asked where she'd been, she gave me short, clipped answers. Just took a walk. Got some fresh air. But the dark circles under her eyes grew deeper with each passing day. One evening, when she came home, her cardigan was covered in mud. In her hand was a small black pouch. "What is that?" I asked. "Nothing," she said. "It's not important," but she quickly locked the pouch in her room. In that moment, doubt was born inside me. She was doing something, and she wasn't telling me. That night, I couldn't bear it anymore. When Emma went to her room and turned off the lights, I waited in mine. Around 2 a.m., I heard her door open slightly. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. I silently followed her. Emma went to the back door of the house. That same black pouch was in her hand. I grabbed my coat and went outside after her. I followed from a distance. She walked toward the forest at the edge of town. Moonlight spilled across the ground. She knelt at the base of a tree and opened the pouch. From it, she pulled small bone fragments, a few strands of hair, and an old photograph. In the photograph were 2 of us, me and her, but my face had been scratched away. Over it was wound a thin piece of string. My heart began to race. At that moment, a branch beneath my foot snapped. Emma's head shot up. Her eyes gleamed in the darkness. "Who's there?" she whispered. I froze behind the trees. She listened for a moment, then stood up. But her face, that wasn't the face of the Emma I knew. For just a moment, there was a shadow beneath her chin, a darkness that seemed to belong to someone else entirely. Then it was gone. That night, I stayed awake until morning. The next morning, I found Zelia sitting at the table. She looked normal, as if nothing had happened. I couldn't hold it in. "I saw you last night," I said. Her eyes went rigid. Then she smiled. "What do you think you saw, Sarah?" I told her. "You were in the forest. You were burying something. There was a photograph." My face was scratched out. She looked at me for a long moment, as if studying me. "Some things need to stay buried," she said finally, "because if you dig them up, they come back." A sudden chill filled the kitchen. The windows were closed, but there was wind inside. Emma moved closer to me. "Don't keep looking in mirrors," she said. "I don't even know anymore what they'll show you." That night, I decided to cover the mirror in my room. But as I pulled the cloth over it, I noticed something. Behind the glass, there were two eyes watching me. Not my eyes, Emma's eyes. That night, I covered the mirror, but it didn't help. Before dawn, I heard a voice from behind the wall. It was like someone whispering. Slow, hollow, but the words were clear. "Why did you cover me up, Sarah?" I pulled the blanket over my head. "It's just a dream," I told myself over and over. "It's just a dream." But then the voice came again, right beside my ear. "You didn't call me." Emma did. That's when I jumped out of bed and turned on the light. My room was empty, but the cloth I'd placed over the mirror had fallen. Inside the glass, for just a moment, I saw two silhouettes. One was me. The other was a woman with no face. At breakfast, I looked at Emma. She looked like she hadn't slept, but there was something unnatural about her face. It was as if something beneath her skin was moving. Her fingers drummed on the coffee cup, and her lips were trembling. She seemed to be speaking silently to someone. "Emma," I said, "what did you do last night?" She looked at me in a way that made my stomach clench. Her pupils had dilated, nearly black. "You heard it too, didn't you?" she said. "The mirror, you heard it too. Maybe you even called it." She wasn't hiding it anymore. She'd heard that voice. Maybe she'd even summoned it. I stood up and went to the mirror. "What have you done?" I asked her. "I wanted to bring our mother back," she said in a whisper. I was stunned. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't see her when she died. I couldn't be there. So someone told me they could help. An old ritual, an old name. My voice trembled as she said these things. They warned me. They said if the words were spoken wrong, the one who came back wouldn't be our mother. It would be something else. My blood ran cold. I remembered that pouch. The thing she'd buried in the forest that night. What if the ritual had gone wrong? Tears began to stream down Emma's face, but something was strange. Her tears were almost black. She reached out and touched the mirror with shaking fingers. The glass suddenly fogged over. Then came a scratching sound, like fingernails dragging across the back of the glass. I backed away. "Don't," I said, but she didn't let go of the mirror. Her eyes were vacant, her voice trembling as she whispered, "Mom, I'm here. You can come back now." At that moment, the lights went out. I froze. From inside the glass came a deep breath, and then a hand emerged from the mirror. It was pale white, with long, impossibly thin fingers. It was almost human, but not quite. Emma couldn't even scream. She just closed her eyes. The hand touched her face. Then it vanished. When the lights came back on, Emma was still standing there, but the surface of that mirror had turned completely black. Inside it, a silhouette stood, my silhouette, but it wore Emma's smile. After that hand came out of the mirror, nothing was ever the same. The house seemed to breathe. The shadows on the walls moved. The doors opened by themselves. The windows fogged up from the inside. But the worst change was Emma. She used to be so lively, talking quickly about everything. Now she barely spoke at all. She'd wander silently through the rooms, standing in front of the mirror for hours. One day I watched her secretly. As she stood before her reflection, her lips moved silently. When I got closer, I realized my name was falling from her lips. Over and over, she was mouthing my name. Inside me, something twisted. "Emma," I said, "what are you doing?" She turned to me slowly. Her eyes were hollow. Then she made that smile. That fake, unnatural smile, as if it belonged to someone else's face. "Why are you so afraid, Sarah?" she asked. "Maybe you shouldn't be afraid of me. Maybe you should be afraid of her." She pointed to the mirror. I looked at the glass, but the reflection wasn't moving with her. While the real Emma stood still, the reflection in the mirror tilted its head slowly to the side and winked. Emma hadn't moved at all. That night, I decided to leave. I packed my bags. I grabbed my car keys. But when I turned the ignition, the engine wouldn't start. I tried again and again. Nothing. Then I heard Emma's voice from inside the house. "If you want to leave, you can. But she won't let you go." I looked back at the house window. There was a silhouette watching me. It looked like Emma, but its eyes were completely black. Terrified, I got out of the car and ran to the door. Inside, the house was silent, but every mirror had fallen to the ground, their glass shattered. Only the large mirror in the living room remained perfectly intact. Inside it were both of us. But this time the roles had reversed. The me in the mirror wasn't looking at me, it was looking at her. And slowly it whispered, "Your turn, Sarah." In the days that followed, I lost all sense of time. The nights blurred together. Strange sounds came from Emma's room, scratching, growling, hollow whispers. Every time I opened the door, silence took over. One morning I woke and Emma was gone, as if she'd never existed. I searched everywhere in the house. I went to the yard. I dug the ground, but there was no trace. Only one thing I found: that old black pouch, now empty, but scratched into it, as if by fingernails, was a message. "It's yours now." Then I heard a breath behind me. I slowly turned around. Someone was standing at the door. She wore Emma's clothes, but the face was mine. The thing at the doorway looked at me. My face, but not me. It smiled slowly. As its lip curled upward, the facial muscles moved in a strange, unnatural way, as if the skin didn't belong to that face. "Sarah," it said, "why are you surprised?" "You called me." I stepped back, but it mimicked my step and moved forward. But this wasn't a reflection, 'cause as I retreated, it advanced. "Emma," I managed to say with difficulty. It tilted its head. "That name doesn't exist anymore," it said. "I am you now, and you're me. From the moment you looked into all those mirrors, you chose this." Suddenly, every wall in the house began to creak. Whispers rose from the mirrors. Dozens of voices, all repeating the same words at once. One body, one soul, one spirit. I closed my eyes, but it didn't help. The voices filled me from the inside. I could hear my own heartbeat among theirs. That's when I realized something. The necklace on my chest, our mother's small silver locket. Emma used to wear the same one before she died. With all my courage, I screamed, "You're not real." The creature before me just laughed. "If I'm not real," it said, "then neither are you." Suddenly, all the lights went out. In the darkness, there were only whispers from the mirrors, as if inside each glass there was another me. Among the faint whispers, I heard my own voice. "Whose glass are you in, Sarah?" I started to run down the corridor, but no matter where I looked, the mirrors were always there. I stopped in front of one. Its glass was full of cracks, but the image inside was clear. I wasn't looking back at myself in the reflection. I was looking at someone beside me. And slowly I saw the silhouette of Emma, her head tilted to one side, her hands on my shoulders. The mirror wasn't touching me, but I felt a cold weight on my back, as if she was really there. The reflection looked into my eyes. Then I heard Emma's voice echo, "Only one of us can live. You have to choose." Suddenly, the glass cracked. Dozens of my reflections looked back at me. They all smiled at once, and they spoke in unison. "You already made your choice long ago." Everything went black. When I woke up, it was morning, but the house was silent, too silent. When I looked in the mirror, Emma's locket was around my neck. Sunlight filtered through the curtains. Everything was quiet. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, but my body didn't feel like it belonged to me. There was a strange coldness at the tips of my fingers. I raised my hand. On my wrist was a thin, pale scar. I didn't remember it, but something whispered inside me, "This belongs to her, not you." The door to my room was slightly open. At the end of the hallway where the mirrors used to be, there was now only moisture stains on the walls. But someone was standing at the end of that hallway. I thought it was Emma. I approached slowly. She turned and looked at me. Her eyes were full but lifeless. "Sarah," she said, "why did you leave me here?" Her voice was hollow, as if coming from deep inside a well. "You left," I said. "No," she whispered. "You left. I'm here now. In your place." She moved closer to me. She put her fingertips on my cheeks. At that same moment, I felt something over my shoulder. A breath, a shadow. At the same instant, the face of the Emma standing in front of me began to crack. Like thin glass breaking, and through the cracks, my own face appeared. My knees buckled. I staggered backward. But now, everywhere I looked, every wall, every broken piece of glass, I saw my own face. Each one watching me with a different expression. One crying, one smiling, one whispering. "Which one are you?" came the question. The house had become a labyrinth. I didn't know where the doors led. I opened one. Inside was a small room filled with mirrors. In the center, a dusty table. On it was that black pouch. A photograph fell out. In it were two children, twins. But this time, both their faces were identical. I stared at it, and the room began to spin. The dark walls seemed to breathe, and from the mirrors came a voice. "One of you was born. One of you was reflected. Now, I don't know how long I've been here. I don't know if nights pass. I don't know if I eat. I don't know if I sleep. But sometimes one of the mirrors looks at me, and it smiles before I do. And sometimes there's not just one person in the mirror. There are two. One is me. The other looks exactly like my face, but with Emma's eyes. And every time they whisper the same thing. Now it's your turn, Emma. The mirror is silent. The house is silent. But the story didn't end. Because somewhere in someone's mirror, those two reflections are still trembling. Maybe tonight, when I turn off the lights, that voice will whisper too. Maybe I'll wonder which one of us is real, yeah? Sunlight filters through. Everything is quiet, too quiet. And I still can't answer the question that echoes in my mind. Which one of us was ever real?